Imagine walking into a brand new job located smack in the middle of a dense jungle, only to find out that every single person who held the job before you either ran away in absolute terror after day one or met a much darker fate. Well, that's exactly what we're unpacking today. We're going to break down the mechanics of this incredibly chilling, haunted post office mystery, piecing together all the clues from the original source material. As you'll see, it's not just a ghost story, it's a really profound tale of betrayal, greed, and ultimately some pretty spectacular karmic justice. Let's get right into it.
So, the big question right out of the gate. Why on earth does nobody last a single night here? Our entry point into this whole mystery is a guy named Mahesh. He rolls up to the village, appointment letter in hand, totally ready to take on the role of the new postmaster. But, when he stops at the local tea stall, the villagers are just dumbfounded. They literally can't believe he actually plans to stay. They just straight up warn him that anyone who takes this gig is either gone by morning or they never leave the jungle at all. It immediately sets up this atmosphere that is just suffocated by dread.
And it really highlights this totally stark contrast between Mahesh and the locals. Take his assigned assistant, a guy named Raju. Raju knows the deadly secret hiding in those woods, and he flat out refuses to stay at the post office after the sun goes down. I mean, he's literally willing to lose his livelihood rather than spend one night inside that building. Mahesh, though, he's super rational. He desperately needs the paycheck, so he kind of just tries to brush off all this village paranoia as pure superstition. But having this sharp dividing line between his totally practical need for a job and the villagers' absolute paralyzing fear, it sets the perfect stage for the horrors we're about to see.
Well, Mahesh's rationality doesn't last long. It gets put to the test almost immediately. On his very first night, he's hit with these chilling paranormal signs that just drown you in this incredibly unsettling vibe. And what's fascinating is that it doesn't start with a visual ghost popping out. It's all about sound. First, you've got the distant, super eerie crying of jackals right at midnight. Then dogs start aggressively barking out of nowhere. But then, it escalates. It turns into this unmistakably unnatural, heavy breathing right outside his window. And the kicker? The sharp, metallic ring of a phantom bicycle bell, followed by the slow creak of pedals in the dead of night. Even our brave guy Mahesh finds himself gripping the bedsheets, sweating bullets, and just covering his ears to block it all out.
Now, if you look closely, the entity haunting these woods isn't just some mindless monster lashing out at random. It actually operates with this highly calculated agenda against the corrupt folks in the village. We can clearly see this by looking at its specific targets. Take a Vipul, for example. His fatal flaw? Pure greed. He gets this mysterious letter promising him 5,000 rupees if he just shows up at the post office at 1 a.m. And then we've got Baldev and Nupur. They're the son-in-law and daughter of the village Mukhya, or headman. They get a letter too, but theirs threatens to expose a horrific hidden crime they committed, essentially forcing them out into the pitch-black woods at midnight.
It's honestly brilliant. The ghost uses its victim's own greed and guilt as the ultimate deadly trap. Just look at the exact wording of the bait left for Vipul. The letter literally says, "I know you need money and will do anything for it." The entity knows exactly what makes these people tick. Vipul is so blinded by the idea of scoring some easy cash to take his wife on a trip that he totally ignores the massive red flags of a midnight rendezvous in a haunted jungle. And for Baldev and Nupur, it's the sheer absolute terror of their darkest secret getting out that drags them from their safe, fancy house right into the jaws of the woods.
And every single time, the result is exactly the same. A terrifying midnight encounter right at the banyan tree, ending in a brutal, totally unexplained demise. Once these targets reach that specific spot behind the post office, the psychological torture really kicks into gear. First, that ominous ring of the bicycle bell echoes through the trees again. Then, a pack of vicious dogs just materializes, chasing them through the dark. And finally, right when they think they might actually get away, this lightning-fast shadowy figure riding a bicycle emerges from the dark. It strikes with such insane force that their screams echo across the entire jungle, and well, their bodies are found the very next morning.
Okay, so who is this phantom, right? Well, the string of attacks actually leads us to the totally heartbreaking tragedy of a man named Aryaman. Through a letter that the phantom itself personally delivers to Mahesh, we finally learn the ghost's true identity. It turns out, Aryaman was the village's very first postmaster. He was his incredibly devoted son who sold his ancestral land and pooled all of his life savings just to buy a grand house for his widowed mother. But the corrupt village Mukhya, he wanted that exact house for his own daughter. So, the Mukhya and his thugs ambushed Aryaman, stole every penny he had, murdered him in cold blood, and tossed his body right under that very banyan tree.
So you see, Aryaman's spirit is communicating directly through these letters, and it completely reframes the whole story. He reveals that he's not an evil entity at all. He's a deeply betrayed soul who is just desperately seeking justice. His haunting was never meant to terrorize innocent people. He just needed someone, anyone, to finally stop and listen to his tragic story. But every single postmaster before Mahesh was just way too terrified by the creepy bicycle bell and the aggressive dogs to stick around and read the truth.
Mahesh is quite literally the very first person brave enough to stand his ground, read that letter, and fully grasp the profound injustice that sparked all this supernatural revenge. And armed with that horrific truth, Mahesh does a total 180. He pivots from being this terrified victim to essentially becoming a detective. And he sets this brilliant trap to expose the real villain. He marches straight up to the murderous Mukhya and completely bluffs him. He claims he's hired a really powerful tantric, a mystic, to banish Aryaman's spirit once and for all. Now the Mukhya is absolutely desperate to make sure the ghost is silenced so he can keep his stolen wealth, right? So he eagerly shows up at the post office that night. But here is the genius part. Mahesh has secretly arranged for the local Kotwal, the police officer, to hide right there in the shadows and listen to the whole thing.
This is where the Mukhya's own boundless arrogance and greed become his absolute downfall. Because when the ghost of Aryaman suddenly materializes in front of them instead of this promised tantric, the Mukhya completely loses it. He panics. In this desperate, crazy attempt to stay in control, he starts screaming at Mahesh, ordering him to capture the ghost, and then he openly threatens to kill Mahesh exactly like he killed Aryaman. He just brazenly confesses to the entire murder conspiracy right there on the spot, and he has absolutely no idea that the police officer is standing literally a few feet away, taking in every single damning word.
Obviously, the police officer steps right forward to arrest him. But, as it turns out, human law just isn't enough for Aryaman's spirit. Before the Mukhya can even think about running from the cops, Aryaman's ghost unleashes its full supernatural strength. It literally lifts the terrified Mukhya high up into the pitch-black night air and just drops him. The fall is fatal. So the man who orchestrated this brutal, cold-blooded murder just to steal a house and some cash, he meets his ultimate end at the exact same location where he dumped Aryaman's body all those years ago. Talk about full circle.
So with the true villains finally dealt with, Mahesh makes sure that this timeline of tragedy is corrected. He fulfills Aryaman's beautiful final wish for his grieving mother. The police officer steps in and uses his authority, fully backed by Mahesh's testimony and the Mukhya's own accidental confession, to legally transfer that grand house right back to Gayatri, Aryaman's mother. Now, obviously, she still has to carry the unimaginable grief of losing her son, but she finally gets to live in the beautiful home that he sacrificed literally everything to give her. The cycle of violence and theft is officially broken for good.
And after justice is finally served, Mahesh just continues doing his job as the village postmaster. But here's the really beautiful twist. Sometimes, in the dead of night, he still hears the sharp, metallic ring of that phantom bicycle bell echoing out from the dark jungle. But he doesn't lock his doors anymore. He doesn't cover his ears in terror, because now he understands that Aryaman's soul is totally at peace. That gentle ring fading in the distance, it's just the ghost's eternal way of saying thank you to the one guy who was finally brave enough to bring his truth into the light.
As we wrap up this explainer, I think it leaves us wondering about the actual cost of greed and the terrifying secrets that people try so desperately to bury. You see, the haunting of the jungle post office was never just a random act of evil. It was a mirror. It was reflecting the deeply buried sins of the corrupt village leadership. And it forces us to ask a pretty haunting question. If all of our darkest, most heavily guarded secrets were suddenly dragged out into the light, what ghosts of our own making might come riding out of the darkness to hold us accountable? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating story with me today, and I really encourage you to keep questioning the shadows around you.